Can you guys hear me out there in the back corners? If this doesn't work, I'll grab the mic. Like Coach said, my name is Dechant. I am the Director of Strength and Conditioning here for baseball. 11th season. What we're going to talk about today is developing your athletes in season. All right? There is a huge lack, what we see is a huge void of taking advantage of in-season development with your kids. All right? We're not talking about maintenance here. We're talking about creating a plan to develop your kids throughout the entire year. All right? The biggest problem that we see today, like I talked about, from visiting with recruits, from talking to coaches, I talk to high school coaches every week. The biggest issue that we see is a 2 steps forward, 3 steps back approach. All right? They develop in the off season. You guys have great programs in the off season. Kids do all kinds of stuff in the off season to develop. We get to the in season and they completely lose everything. It's cold turkey. We stop. I don't have time for it. I don't want to be sore. I'm playing too many games. I don't want to be tired. The excuses kind of go on and on and on. And I'm not saying that's your guys' fault. I'm not saying it's the athlete's fault. There's all kinds of issues. All right, what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to approach an in-season plan built around consistency, all right, variety or lack thereof when we get to the in-season. The beauty of the in-season program versus the off-season program. It's the best time for us to develop, actually. You'll see that. All right, the fourth thing is transfer to your sport, transfer to skill. That's why you're all in the weight room, is to transfer that into the skill. You're the baseball coach. You want a good athlete on the field. The weight room is going to assist you in that endeavor. All right, we'll talk a little bit about injury prevention, and then we'll touch on programming. All right, just some quick ideas for you to implement, for you to be able to implement a program in your place. I know you guys have a lack of time, a lack of resources, just like Coach talked about. I know you guys have all that. Some of the ideas that I have that we utilize should help you in that endeavor in 15 and 20-minute workouts, all right? We'll talk about a few key concepts that you can take home right away. That's what I want this to be about. Every year I speak at this, we want it to be practical for you guys because I know you don't have the facility. We have an 18,000 square foot facility. We got 30 racks. I work with 2 sports. I know you guys don't have access to that type of thing, so we want it to be practical for you guys. All right? All right, the first concept we're going to talk about is compounding gains. All right? Compounding gains and consistency. Would you rather have $1 million or a penny doubled in value every day for a month? All right? We'll come back to that question, but think on that for a second. All right, we'll come back to that. For us, consistency is the most important factor throughout the in-season period. All right, there is nothing else if we don't have consistency. Okay, it's compounding gains. James Clear talks about it. Brian Kane, one of our mental coaches, or our mental coach, I shouldn't say one of. He is our mental coach. He might be a lot of your guys's. A lot of self-help gurus. They talk about 1% every day. That's the law of compounding gains. 1% adds up over time exponentially. All right? That's what our in-season program produces. We'll show you how we do that. Small things matter. Like I said, that 1%, it will add up. Consistency will beat hard work when hard work isn't consistent. I would rather have a guy that gives me 80% for 3 months in a row every day than a guy that gives me 120% 2 times out of the week for 2 or 3 months, all right? He shows up here and there, but when he is, man, he's super intense and he gets after it, but he's going to miss a week. He's going to miss 3 or 4 days during the week here. He's going to miss a day on this week. I'm going on vacation. I'll miss 10 days here, all right? We would rather have the guy that can give us 80% all the time. He's going to make way better gains. We're going to get way more out of him, all right? When you're inconsistent, soreness and stiffness is what happens, all right? One of our biggest reasons that we hear, I don't want to train in season. I don't want to be sore. I don't want to be stiff. I can't be sore. All right? When you are consistent with training, soreness and stiffness go by the wayside. Right now, beginning of the year, what's the number one New Year's resolution? It's to get in shape, right? Everybody's back at the gym. Gyms are making tons of money. It's to get in shape. What happens the first 2 weeks? You can barely get out of bed. You can barely sit on the toilet. You hate your life, right? Your legs are so sore. Everything's sore. When you are consistent with training, you eliminate that problem, all right? We actually want the body to adapt. This is not P90X. Another issue that we see a lot with programming that coaches ask us about is the concept of change. We want to change everything all the time. It's like I said, it's not P90X. We want the body to adapt. We have an excellent period of time for athletes to get really, really good at movement right now, all right? Inconsistent with training, you're going to get inconsistent results, all right? You miss a day here and there, that 1% declines. You're kind of starting back over a little bit, all right? And then we all know the injury risks. So we're going to talk about the injury risks in just a second, but you're increasing your injury risks if you're inconsistent with training, all right? Back to our question, 30 days. This is what 1 penny doubled every day for a month produces. Just under $5.4 million, all right? So if you took the second, or if you took the penny, you're well ahead. That's that power of compounding gains, all right? Here's the question you should be asking. How long is the month? Is it 30 or 31 days? All right, 31 days, guess what? Now you've got a real nice sum, okay? Small things matter. Our program, like Coach talked about, is built around the foundational principles for us, movement, and little things matter. All right, you can see 1 day, no big deal. What's 1 day? Well, 1 day is a lot in this case, right? All right, variety. Less is actually more. Less is more when we get to the in-season period. We don't want change, like I talked about earlier. What does change produce? Soreness, stiffness. A new stimulus. Every time you add a new stimulus, you're taking adaptation energy away from your athletes. All right, adaptation energy. Their body has to compensate to adapt to a new stimulus. That's why we really don't change in season. I use 2 blocks. I have a block A and a block B, and we do that for 26 weeks, rotating back and forth, all right? We have our 5 foundational exercises that I talked about at last year's, the convention in Waco, actually. I have our 5 foundational exercises and a variation on each one of those, and that's what we do for an in-season, over 6 months, basically. All right, that's our program. We don't want change. We want their body to adapt so that they don't produce soreness, so that we don't get stiffness. We want to keep it to a minimum in season change. All right, movements that you need to be aware of. The RDL, anything that's loading the hamstrings in a stretch position. All right, these are just a couple quick examples. The RDL, single leg RDL, single leg work, Bulgarian split squats. Those are exercises that are going to produce a lot of soreness. Are these exercises that we utilize in our program? Yes, every day. All of those exercises are in our program in season. But the key here is that we introduce them at the beginning of the semester so that we can adapt to them by the time we get to in season, so that we're not sore. It's not a piecemeal program where we randomly throw in something, week 6, and then randomly change that week 8. All right? Like I talked about, Monday shouldn't be different from the next Monday. That shouldn't be different from the next Monday. All right, that's one of the biggest problems, like I said, that we see. Monday is different from Tuesday. That's different from Wednesday. That's different from next Monday. It's different from 3 weeks Monday from now. All right, different exercises. We don't need to change exercises. We'll show you here in a little bit our variation. All right, and I know you guys will get bored watching the same 5 or 6 exercises, the same reps, sets, weights. That's not what we're saying. We get variation through tempo changes. All right, through rep scheme changes. Tempo changes. Instead of doing 8 reps, just blowing through 8 reps, we set a tempo on it. We're going to do a 1 count pause at the bottom, or a 4 count eccentric, a 4 count lowering, or a 1 count pause at the top. Change the tempo. You don't have to change anything else. That's just a new touch on an exercise that you're still doing that will help them to grow a little bit more. All right, and then right now, for us, to me, the opportunity for ingraining movement is excellent in season. We're not asking you to use heavy weight. All right, you can use sub-maximal weight all day long and get phenomenal gains with the novice athlete that you guys are working with. This is an excellent period for ingraining movement patterns. All right, I talked about it again at the Waco convention. Our 5 fundamental movement patterns that we train. It's a perfect time to ingrain those. All right, over and over and over and over again. All right, the disappearance of the off-season. The reason the in-season period is so big for us is the disappearance of the off-season. And you guys all see it, all right? Your games, select ball, tournaments, summer ball, lessons, the list goes on and on and on. These guys are doing skill work year-round. There is no off-season. If you're waiting for the off-season to develop your kids, Keep waiting, because there isn't one. All right? Will you go to the next one for me there? You guys think that our program is perfect. Our program faces the same issues that you guys face. All right? We really don't have a big off season as well. All right? Yeah, I'd love to have a bigger off season, but we understand that baseball is why we're here. All right? And so we work around those issues. For us, our semester off season is a 16-week program. All right? A 16-week program. But guess what? The NCAA limits us. Finals and dead week. Now it's 14 weeks. Thanksgiving, we miss a week. There's 13 weeks. We cut it down because of fall break, because of, there's other holidays in there, Labor Day. Now we're at 12 to 12 and a half weeks. All right, cut it down again. We do a 7-week in-season period during fall ball. So we obviously take a little bit of a back seat to development and work on the in-season stuff over at the field. Now we're down to 5 to 6 weeks. That's our true off-season, all right? That's our true off-season. If we waited around for 5 or 6 weeks to develop, what does that really give us? Does 6 weeks give us anything? 18 workouts, if you're going 3 days a week, 18 workouts really produce anything? All right? We can't wait around for an off-season to develop. We have to have continual development. All right? That's what we want to emphasize. Don't just worry about the fall and then 7, 8 months out of the year, go cold turkey. Okay? Coach, can I? Sorry, can you go back to that other one, please? Yeah. For us, the in-season program, we are stronger in season than any other part of the year. Listen to that. We are stronger in season than any other part of the year, and I will swear by this. We actually have a coach sitting in the audience today, Joe White at Midland League, somewhere in here. Joe can attest to it. There he is in the back row back there. Sweaty Joe can attest to this. The most he ever lifted in his life, the highest max he ever hit on a lift was during the regionals week of his senior year. All right? The highest weight he ever lifted. We don't max in our program. Movement dictates maxes for us. All right? Movements dictate maxes. We are not the other way around. Maxes don't dictate movement, which is what happens so often in so many programs. The weight dictates how you move. I've got a heavy weight today. That's why your squat looks like garbage. All right? The max dictates the movement. We want the movement to dictate the max. With our program in season, if we've got a guy that feels really good and he wants to work up to a heavy single, we'll let him. Joe is a good example. All right? He hit new PRs that week of regionals. Are we maxing all our kids? Are we letting them all work up to heavy singles and regionals? No, we're not. But that's an example of we are the strongest when we need to be. All right? Imagine if you're an athlete that didn't lift in season, and you've gone 26 plus weeks with no lifting, how strong do you think you are? All right? Not very. For us, the reason is consistency. Back to consistency again. All right? We have 26 plus weeks for the last 4 years of development. You multiply that times 3, that gives us 78 training sessions. 78 training sessions versus an athlete that might lift 2 times a week. Numbers, 54, 26, and 0. Imagine if you're a kid that lifts 0. How much would one of your athletes get out of lifting 76 times in a row over the course of 4 or 5 months? Imagine the gains, right? You can go on. All right, the window of development. You guys have a huge opportunity for window of development right now with your athletes. The novice athlete, this is the best opportunity they will ever have in their life, all right? Hormones are just cascading. They will get better regardless of training or not. That's very, very interesting. Studies done. Lance Walker from Michael Johnson's Performance presented this summer at the National Strength and Conditioning Association convention. And the studies he showed, an athlete going through puberty will get faster, 3% faster every year without training, doing nothing, just your average kid. All right? That shows you how much they're maturing, how much puberty plays into that. Take advantage of that window of opportunity when these kids are developing. Regardless, if you add a solid program with good principles, good movement to an athlete that's developing at this time, imagine what you might have. All right? Huge window. Early in the teen years, better for speed, movement, agility, if you want to call it that, deceleration, movement mechanics, basically, all right? Speed, agility, movement. Later in their teen years, mid-teen to late, that's when strength really blossoms. Okay, you've got to take advantage of that window. Cressy actually tweeted this a couple weeks ago, and I thought it's genius, really. The best velocity program you guys are going to find is puberty. It really is. Take advantage of that window. Gains, they come and go. In season, if you haven't trained, guess what? Those off-season gains, they're not going to last. With a novice athlete, I train high school kids in a camp format, all right? We train them over the summer. I see athletes miss 2 weeks from vacation and they will lose 15 to 20% right off the top. It's like they've never squatted in their life before, all right? Novice athletes will not hold on to gains. Their central nervous system is not efficient, all right? You cannot stabilize those gains. It takes a long time of imprinting to stabilize that stuff. An advanced athlete, this isn't the case with an advanced athlete. We've got pro guys over there, our pro group. Those guys could miss 3 months of training and they'll only lose 5% of their max strength. Strength in the novice and intermediate athlete will disappear quickly. All right, so if you're a program that's not doing anything in season to maintain those gains, guess what? The off season is not going to stick around for you. All right, the real meat and potatoes. The transfer to performance. This is what you guys are worried about. Strength is the foundation of all biomotor abilities, all right? It is the foundation of power, of speed, of everything athletic that your athletes at this time as a novice, your young athletes, strength is the foundation for everything. Eventually, with an advanced athlete, these roads separate and strength can actually become a negative correlation. But with the athlete, the population that you're working with, strength is the number one factor. Strength develops skill. All right? Strength will develop skill. It's a lessons culture. All right? It is a lessons culture right now. Baseball, the balance between physical development and skill is out of whack, to be honest, at the youth level. Skill is up here. We do skill all the time. We just talked about it. The in-season period or the off-season period, there isn't one because we're basically doing skill year-round, right? Physical development is down here. Everybody's worried about lessons. You know, I've got a pitching coach. I've got a hitting coach. I've got an infield coach. I've got lessons. 5 days a week over here. Well, what are you doing to develop physically? There's a lack. There's a void there. All right. Football. A lot of you guys are probably football coaches. Football is the exact opposite, right? I played college football. It was physical development. We didn't do hardly anything for skill because football had the belief that to develop skill, you had to be bigger, faster, stronger, more explosive. Everything you do in the weight room is going to produce a better football athlete. That's not necessarily the case. There has to be an intermix between those two. I'm not devaluing skill whatsoever. I'm not saying don't play baseball, don't do skill work, don't teach your kids how to swing, throw, all that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there has to be a mix between the two. All right? We have to even out the two. I've got a good example here. Like I said, I train high school kids. In the summer, we run a camp, an 8-week camp for high school kids. I got a kid that shows up, 141 pounds, all right? 141-pound junior. Comes for about 2 or 3 days, then quits. Yeah, it's not for me. Still continues lessons, all right? I run these kids out of a cage facility. He still continues his lessons. I see him 4 or 5 days a week, an hour long. Lessons, thinking hitting lessons. This has been since the summer, 6 to 7 months? He's still there every day doing lessons. Still weighs 141 pounds and can't hit the back net in the cage on a swing. He's got a great swing, but he can't hit the back net in the cage. If he would have stopped all his lessons, all right, this is extreme. If he would have just stopped all his lessons and trained and eaten and gained 20 or 30 or 40 pounds, do you think his game would be transformed? Yeah, it would. Absolutely would. If he was 180 pounds versus 140 pounds, absolutely would. All we're saying is that there's a lack of continuity between physical development and skill development. And if you bring the two together, you'll have a better athlete. And that's really what it's about at the high school level, is producing a better athlete. You football coaches, probably, or you baseball guys that have football athletes, probably love it when a football athlete comes out to play baseball. They might be your best athlete, to be honest, because there's such an emphasis on physical development on the football side. They're probably bigger, faster, and stronger than most of your baseball kids. All right, that physical development will develop skill. All right, you have to build the motor. If you don't build the motor, there's nothing to produce force. the arrow does not go both ways in this either, all right? Strength will assist skill development. Skill development doesn't transfer over into increased strength, power, speed, and size, okay? When we say strength, at this level, how strength assists skill, imagine this. Here's a practical example. Your hitter, a hitter that's bigger, faster, stronger, quicker, can delay his reaction time on a swing. He doesn't have to start his swing so fast on a ball that might be coming that he doesn't know if he wants to swing at it or not. He can delay his reaction because he has more explosive ability, more reactiveness, more strength to delay that swing and make a decision later in the pitch. A pitcher, you can completely retool a pitcher's mechanics because of strength. All right, in the low-level athlete, a guy that can't brace on his front leg will not develop more velocity. All right, if you increase the ability for him to brace on his front leg so he can get more pelvic rotation, guess what? Velocity will go up. All right, skill and strength have a correlation. Now, when we get to older athletes, more intermediate and advanced athletes, is that correlation as strong? It's not. All I'm saying is, at your level, at the high school level, and a lot of the kids that we see, there is a huge correlation. All right, keeping kids healthy. Number one problem we see right now are pars fractures in the spine, all right? Stress fractures, lower back issues. Why is that? Again, development. Development as an athlete. Weak core, pelvic control, lack of hip mobility. Athletes that use their lumbar spine to decelerate on a rotational effort instead of having the muscular control to stop themselves, they start using their lumbar spine in a lot of cases. All right, movement patterns, all of those equal a recipe for injury, recipe for disaster. We see pars fractures a lot. All right, I'm sure you guys see the same. That's one of the reasons we kind of eliminated the back squat and we utilize the front squat now. All right, we see tons and tons of pars fractures at the high school level. The other reason, again, the disappearance of the off season. We keep going back to that. It's in season year round. If we don't develop physical ability to withstand the hundreds of swings a week, and we start utilizing things like our lumbar spine to block us off when we rotate, we're going to have problems. All right, the rotator cuff. 3 to 18% loss of strength during periods of heavy throwing. All right, we don't want weakness in the rotator cuff. Fatigue. You got to know your player. All right, know your player. Your eyes are the best indicator of monitoring fatigue management that you can have. Seeing kids that aren't chatty, all right? Seeing kids that are sluggish. They'll tell you when they're tired and fatigued. You can see it. You don't have to ask them, all right? You can manage in-season workouts by watching your kids, all right? Acute versus chronic. This is a big topic right now in injury management. Acute versus chronic. What are they doing or what are they prepared for versus what are they going to do, all right? A kid that's not prepared for what you're about to do, you're asking for problems. How do we combat that? Raise your workloads gradually. Coach Mo does an excellent job here. When we start base running for the first time, Coach Mo eases them into it. We start at 70 to 75% on our base running stuff because when they come back from Christmas, they haven't been running bases a lot of times. So we ease them into that. That's all we're saying. Raise your workloads gradually. Don't go from doing a little bit to huge volumes. You wouldn't do that with a pitcher, or hopefully you wouldn't, because a lot of times that's where we see big injuries. All right, so raise your workloads gradually. Could I get the next slide, Coach? Thank you. Big principles when we get to in-season. Consistency again. Big basic movements. Don't worry about isolation. Don't worry about small muscle groups. Worry about movements, not isolation. All right, variety. We don't want that change. Again, like I talked about, tempos are our variety. We change the tempo of a movement. Reps. Cut your reps and sets in half, all right? I shouldn't say sets. Cut your reps in half is an easy way. If you were going to do 3 sets of 8 on an exercise, cut it in half and do sets of 4. Do more sets of 4 than you would sets of 8. So 3 sets of 8, 28 or 24 total reps. Let's do 4 or 5 sets of 4 instead of 3 sets of 8, all right? You will decrease the relative intensity and save your athletes some soreness. All right? It does not need to be heavy. It doesn't need to be fatiguing. You don't need to do that. Some maximal weights, 70 and 80% weights in season, will go far, far into producing results. Talking about the, go ahead. Creating a plan here, all right? 2 to 3 sessions a week. 30 to 45 minutes. I know most of you guys have class periods that are about 40 to 45 minutes. I've got several ideas, so don't get too caught up in this yet. Big movements. We don't want to waste time. We just talked about it. Pitchers. It's routine. Pitchers might be the most important guy to have on a lifting plan as far as a routine goes. You don't randomly throw them into starts and say, oh yeah, you start tonight, by the way. I forgot to tell you a couple days ago. You have them on a routine. The biggest issue that we see with pitchers is, I don't want them to lift because they might throw. Then they don't throw because they're a reliever. They don't throw. Well, I don't want him to lift tomorrow either because he might have to throw. He might have to throw tomorrow night. Don't lift him. And then he didn't throw. And now it's 10 or 14 days before he's lifted. He goes in and lifts. Now he's sore. Well, I can't have him sore. I can't have him sore and quit lifting him. All right. If you maintain consistency, you eliminate those problems. Our pitchers lift 3 times a week, regardless of in season. All right. We lift 3 times a week, all based on rotation, reliever, starter, but they still are consistent 3 times a week. All right? Some alternatives for you guys that lack time: rain delays. Use a rain delay, or I shouldn't say rain delay. When you guys have a rain out, use a rain out as an opportunity to lift. All right? Integrate it into warm-ups. You can integrate core work and glute activation, pelvic control. I did a calculation. We warm up 31 and a half hours in the in-season. Our warm-up takes 12 minutes. We do that 6 days a week for 26 weeks. It's 31 and a half hours. We can get a lot of stuff done in 31 and a half hours, all right? Utilize some of that time in your warm-up. Game day training. I get asked this question a ton. We train on game days. Yes, we do. All right? Stimulate. Don't annihilate. It's not a day where you have to kill them. A big dynamic warm-up. If you're working out in the afternoon versus the morning you can do a little bit more. If you have 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of recovery in the afternoon, use it as an extended warm-up to get their body firing fast. They'll have the best BP of their life. All of you have lifted at some point since your playing days and went out and thrown a baseball, swung a bat right after you lifted. Felt amazing. Man, my arm feels amazing. I can't believe how warm I am, how loose I am. This feels great. Maybe I still have it in me. Right? That same concept can be brought over to your kids. Stimulate them with med ball throws, jumps, fast movements, 10 or 15 minutes. Our tennis team does it every time. Before they take the court, they come over and work out. All right? It's a stimulation. They should feel energized upon leaving. All right, a couple options here. At the end of this, I'll tell you real quick. We're going to post this. PowerPoint and video, so you don't have to necessarily get focused on this. This is training the whole body, front and back, upper and lower. All right. This workout takes you less than 30 to 35 minutes at most. Okay. Fill in your active rest periods with some rotator cuff, with some core, and you've got a full body workout 2 times a week. Coach, next please. The last concept here is microdosing. All right, if you're a guy that doesn't have 30 to 45 minutes a week, microdosing. We're basically taking a workout and you're cutting it in half. All right, cut it in half and put it on every day. That previous example, you've got 2 days there. Let's say it's a Monday and a Wednesday. Monday to Wednesday workout. You cut that workout in half, you apply it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday now. Now you've got a 10 to 15 minute workout. You're in and out quick. 4 times a week. Microdosing actually has huge advantages over regular workouts for your athletes in that the primary principle in motor skill development is frequency. So if you're doing these movements 3, 4, 5 times a week, which we do in our foundation program, they're going to get really good at those movements. Instead of squatting 1 time a week, you squat 2 or 3 or 4 times a week. Guess what? They're going to be great at those movements. All right, quick example there. Long-term consistency. All right, short-term intensity. It trumps it every time. Last thing I'll touch on. All right, if you guys have your pen out, real quick. My website, ZachDechant.com. If you go /TCU, that's where we're going to post all the slides from this and the video. We've got a video being taken right now. We'll post a video and the slides from this presentation if you want those. That link is up right now. ZachDechant /TCU. We'll send that out in the next week when we get this put up on the internet. If you guys have questions, I'll be around after the presentations for lunch. You're welcome at any time to come by, watch our workouts. email us, ask questions whenever. We're here to help you.